What is a slip stitch join? So slip stitch joins usually come into play when you're working in the round, whether you're doing a circle or a square. We use them a lot in amigurumi patterns, but also when just joining up around on any other piece. So the slip stitch join means that we are now going to connect our round here, from here to here. Okay. Now sometimes you might be told to cut off your yarn, and I have a needle join tutorial if you want to use the needle join for a seamless view, but if you're going to continue the yarn, you don't want to cut it off. The slip stitch join is basically joining, it usually tells you which stitch to join into, and most often there are two chains here for my first double crochet. It'll tell you to join into the second chain of the starting point here. Sometimes some people do 3 chains for a double crochet. I'm used to doing 2. Anyway, so here's a slip stitch join. I finished my last stitch and I want to join up. So all you've got to do, no yarn over, it's just with the loop on your hook, you go into the inside that second chain like that, you pull the yarn through and then you pull it through again. And that is a slip stitch join. Okay, simple as that. And that's all you ever need to know about it. However, there's always an advanced element to every technique in crochet. So I'm going to teach you about that, because the reason I'm going to teach you about that is this. When I did that slip stitch join, my next stitch, you see how it has opened it up? A lot of people make a mistake here and think that that is not a stitch, and they'll skip away from it. And you always, when you do that, you make the mistake and you lose a stitch. And sometimes when you come back around to complete your pattern, because the other part of the slip stitch is they might say to you now to slip stitch into the corner to continue your next round, you've got to use this first one. You see how those loops are pulled open? Now these are the loops from the double crochet, they're not from the chain, but because of what I've done to the chain, it has really opened up the next stitch. So slip stitch across to the corner just means doing slip stitching into the next stitch and then a slip stitch into the corner. Okay, so now I have 2 sets of top loops here. The problem is that it looks like I've actually got 3. I've got one there, one set there, one set there, and one set there, getting myself into the corner. So when I come back around and I start a new, once I've started a new round, let's say I put a chain 2 and a double crochet in here, chain 2 and another double crochet just to start a new round, for example. When I come back around, it looks like there are 1, 2, 3 sets of loops here. It looks like there are 3 stitches, and that's another common mistake where people add a stitch by accident. Okay, so what do? Well, first of all, you have to be very clear about what you're doing here. You've got to understand that when you do a regular slip stitch join into the top of a chain to complete a round, whether it's a 2 chain, a 3 chain, or whatever it is, and you go into the top of that chain, you're going to create an open stitch next to it, which you need to remember is a stitch, and you're going to inadvertently create a 3rd set of top loops when you move over into your corner, so that it looks like there are 3 stitches here when there are not. If you want an advanced technique, or it's not really an advanced technique, it's an alternative technique, and it's the one I use always, because I forget. I'm the one who's always losing a stitch or gaining a stitch because I forget what I'm looking at. Unjoin it. You're still going to make a slip stitch join, but you're going to avoid this chain altogether. You're going to come across to the double crochet itself, trust me, and make a slip stitch under the top loops of the actual double crochet, completely ignoring that chain 2 that's here. Now what I've done is I've created a set of false loops above the chain 2. Then it says slip stitch to the corner, do 1 more slip stitch into the corner, and now I have only 2 sets of loops here. So if I continue my round, and I'll show you what happens when you build up the next round, before you were seeing 3 sets of top loops, but now this way you're only going, I'll just finish this corner so it just shows you how it looks. Now there's that last stitch there. Here are my corner stitches. So from here to here I've only got 2 sets of top loops, 1, 2. Before I had 3. This is not them. This is the stitches from the side, and these are the 2 sets of top. So when you come back around and you're working into every one of these, you put 1 in there. That's your last set of top loops sitting above the double crochet. Can't make that mistake. And when I did that slip stitch into the corner, there was nothing. There was no split open stitch or anything. I've got a false loop here that's sitting above the chain 2. I do a second slip stitch, creates a second set of false top loops that sits above the double crochet, and I know exactly where I am. So my stitch count will always be the same. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches to the corner. If I turn around on the normal sides, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 stitches to the corner. Anyway, that's a simple little technique. That's what the slip stitch join to end around is all about, and that's 2 ways to do it. But the first way is the easiest way, because you don't really have to think about it. You just join to where they tell you, which is the top of the chain 2 or the top of the chain 3 or whatever you're doing. Or the top of it could be a popcorn, could be a cluster. But if you've just got individual stitches like this, and you just join to the chain and then you slip stitch twice to get into the corner, it's going to look like you've got 3 stitches. You're going to get tied up in knots. You're going to either lose or find extra stitches, and you're going to be tearing your hair out with your stitch counts. So that's my hint. I've been doing it for a long time now, and I find it's the safest way for me because it's just too easy to forget. Okay, bye for now.